right, here we are. Another podcast. Your host Matthias here with the boys.
John.
And Greg again.
And Greg, welcome back.
Yeah.
Glad to get your insight on these new Deathguard rules that are, I guess, leaked.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff.
But first, we have other stuff that we need to go through. So let's go to that first. So, first thing first is I know John yesterday sent me some images on a crappy camera of the new high elf models and a new vampire soul blight thing. I didn't really look at the name, but yeah. You guys, what do you think of these antelope riders, kangaroo riders? Yeah, there you go.
I think they're pretty awesome. I love that Age of Sigmar is again pushing the boundaries of what fantasy designs can be. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, like these look lame. Like, where are the regular horses?" Well, we have a crap ton of regular horses in Age of Sigmar already, so having these weird kangaroo dinosaur creatures, I think that's great. Now, it is weird that we're seeing a split release for Lumineth, in the sense that these aren't in the Battle Tome. So these are completely new. I'm not sure how they're going to roll these out. Maybe a new campaign book. I mean, AOS rules are free anyway, so maybe it doesn't even matter. And there's the new cow cavalry thing, the Lord.
Yes.
That's also pretty cool. What are you, Matt? I know you hate elves, but
All right. Well, I don't hate elves. I hate how the high elves look. All right.
okay.
I mean, I play Eldar, for God's sake. So I can't hate elves if I play them. But
well, space elves are different species.
Okay, true. But I have Daughters of Cain, so
That's true.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It gives them something. It gives them something that stands out, other than horses. So I mean, I give them that. But I think I've made it pretty clear that I'm not really happy with the high elf design that they're going with. I think the only model I liked was the hollow armor.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else I've been pretty disappointed in, but then again, I'm not a high elf player, so it doesn't really bother me that much. But aesthetically, I don't like it.
That's fair. How do you feel about the Lumineth in general? I don't think I've heard your opinion on this army.
I thought one of them, the big model that they had, looked really sick, and I thought it was like a good keeper of secrets alternative. And seeing guys in like dinosaur kangaroos is kind of cool. So now you're not going to see ponies versus ponies versus ponies versus ponies. So it just adds kind of flavor to the game. It's not really as horde based as it used to be either. And also cavalry isn't, I don't think you really hoard cavalry. So it's cool to have different looking things, really.
Yeah, I agree with that one. This having new design, new creatures in Age of Sigmar is always a good thing. Part of I think the reason why it was a good idea to pull from Warhammer Fantasy is just allowing for weird stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it's interesting. It's just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, totally fair.
And then we also got, which was on a bad camera, this vampire count, which is Soulblight. Soulblight character. Interesting.
That thing's legit looking. I want that like right now. That thing is so sick.
Oh, yeah.
I'm with Greg. I want this right now. This is really cool.
Oh yeah, this is an amazing model. Armor pattern. I could make this into Dark Eldar.
Oh, absolutely.
If I wanted to.
Oh, that's very true. You give it like a splinter rifle or something, and you're kind of good to go.
No, I just replace the mace with like a husk blade or something like that.
Yeah, head swap with a helmet. Done.
Oh no, I want the hair
on top
though.
of a zombie dragon, man. It's over.
Oh yeah.
But
also there's also the repercussions, or not the repercussions, but like what this model represents, the new Soul Blight Gravelord. So we're seeing a new vampire army. I wonder what that's going to be like. If they're going to have generic, it's going to be like a Legions of Nagash offshoot with skeletons and and zombies, or is it going to be like a flesh eater style release? Well, not the best example, because I hope they're going to be new models, like new vampire infantry, like new blood knights, like plastic blood knights or something. That would be really cool. Now, I don't see myself starting that army anytime soon, if ever, but I could definitely see myself having like a Warcry warband of these guys, because that's vampires. Warhammer vampires are super cool. That's a great model. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I definitely want this.
I'll definitely pick up one of these. And if you guys have no more comments on this, I think another story is the preview coming this Saturday. The Dead and Divine.
So the dead is clearly the Soul Blight.
Yeah, it's clearly gonna be that. Darn. Okay, I closed it. So it was the stuff they were gonna talk about was Warhammer 40k, which
40K. Oh, go
is
ahead.
probably gonna be like what we're gonna say, Dark Angels.
I hope so. I hope we see a new Dark Angel model or something. I do
Uh,
wonder what
Dark,
they're going to feel.
Dark Elder are going out, man.
Oh yeah, or Dark Eldar. Now it's probably going to be another supplement for a codex that doesn't come out yet. We all know it's going to happen.
I mean, because Dark Angels and Dark Eldar were supposed to be this month, but they
Yeah.
didn't. But of course, they got pushed back due to delays. So, and it's looking like we're not going to see any of that happen this month. So that sucks. Trying to recall schedule. Was an idiot and closed it. What else was there? There was.
I have it open. There's going to be Age of Sigmar, obviously the stuff we just looked at.
Keep going. So that'd be like Soul Blight, right? Is what we're predicting.
Then there's going to be Kill Team. So
Guild
we're gonna
Team.
have, they're probably gonna announce a new starter set, a new edition for Kill Team. That's actually kind of exciting.
Well, that'll probably just be the Necrons versus Space Marine little Kill Team box set right there.
Yeah.
Was it Underworlds?
Yeah, we're gonna have Underworlds, probably the next warband, which I'm assuming is gonna be the vampires. So just excuse to reveal more vampire models.
It'd be interesting if that guy is part of that box.
That would be interesting, actually. Yeah, that's a good point. And then there's Titanicus. Probably the Titan we saw in the New Year reveal is going to be fully shown. I'm assuming. It only makes sense.
And then we got a mystery.
Yeah, here we go. Guessing time.
You really think they'd reveal a new game system?
Yes, of course. Realistically, it's probably going to be a new Warhammer Quest box for Age of Sigmar.
Okay, so you think it's gonna be just a box game?
Yeah, it's going to be like those like Silver Tower and Hammer Hall, that stuff. I mean, those were fun, so that's exciting. Even more exciting if they have new models that go along with it. That would be cool.
Okay, interesting. So like another that was like a dungeon crawl, right?
Yes, it was a dungeon crawl.
Okay.
Hopes it's gonna be epic or Battlefleet Gothic or something bananas.
No, they're gonna release more news about Old World.
Oh my gosh! Like the cover of the main rule book. There you go.
Like, you guys, you remember this right here? It's coming. Don't you forget.
Don't you forget, guys, the main rule book. Yep. God.
Any predictions on this, Greg?
Not at all.
None at all.
It seems kind of all over the place sometimes. You see some of this stuff, and you're like, all right, I kind of get it. And then you're like, I did not expect Slanesh.
True. Well, that's pretty much it for that. Though I do want to pose a question for you guys.
Yeah.
Given the recent how should I say it? Well, shortages, do you think it would be smarter for GW to just do made to orders for pre-orders, or should they just do it until they sell out kind of deal? Because looking at the Deathguard stuff, I mean, except for the Poxwalker and I think the book, everything was sold out online.
Yeah, like I couldn't pre-order the new HQ because he was sold out, and that was like 10:05.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Do you think they You think it would be a wise or better choice to do that? Just me made to order pre-orders, or should it just be first come first serve kind of deal?
I do. The problem with made to order is that it makes it where everyone gets. So let's say, let's put some numbers in. Let's say they made 500 Lords of Ireland's. Actually, more like realistically, they probably made like 500,000 of them. Or 50,000. That's, I think it's around how much they make of something. So 50,000 Lords of Ireland's, and that's going to be out if there was no COVID, right? In a week, ready to go. 50,000 people are getting the Lords of Ireland. Maybe, some people are getting multiples, right?
Right.
Now, if they didn't made to order, right? And let's say 70,000 people want it. So you'll be producing 70,000 Lords of Ireland's, which will delay that release by a few weeks. Which would not be fun for a lot of people, because then you would just extend the pre-order time. Now, if you structure the pre-order system to be that way, maybe it makes sense. But I do know Games Workshop has shortages in terms of factory space and storage, like warehouse storage. Okay, I believe Games Workshop. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen like the headlines of like Games Workshop selling like outpacing the UK fishing industry or something in terms of sales during coronavirus. Like Games Workshop just kind of destroyed its sales because of the stay-at-home thing.
Yeah.
Which means that more people are buying stuff than Games Workshop can just produce. And they're having obviously because of the pandemic, you can't just build a new factory and staff it with the willing servitors, right? you gotta take it slow.
Right,
So
right.
it is definitely a rock and a hard place kind of thing, because the long story short, made to order, while it ensures everyone's getting one, it's gonna delay the process by a long time. Indominus was this example, right? Like they did made to order Indominus, it took like 4 months. Now it's a single model, so it's probably gonna take like a month or two, but that's still like several weeks of waiting, as opposed to just burning through the initial run through. Because as we speak, the factories are probably churning out like Angron or Fulgrim or whatever kind of concoction they're ready to release this year.
Yeah, we can only hope.
Yeah, we can only hope. So, or actually, realistic answer: new craft worlds are probably being produced as we speak for pre-order in the summer or something. So that's my view on it. Knowing some stuff about how GW works, I would say again, made to order, great, but just delays. Everyone gets one, but you just delay the when everyone gets it kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. I get it. I just, I see these scalpers for the Lord variants going for like $110 right now. I was like, isn't this model like $35 or something? It's kind of ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's just the problem of the miniatures industry exploding so rapidly that they can't outproduced. Like, I know Star Wars Legion phase 2 clone troopers were out of production in March, and they came back in like November. Just because so many people wanted it, and their limited factory space was producing new stuff. Like, they just came out with Anakin and Darth Maul. That's what their factories were producing, and didn't have time to backlog producing this new, the phase 2 clones. I'm sure they were back producing other stuff too, like battle droids or something, right? For example, so it's not just a Games Workshop problem. I think the industry is just, I mean, it's good that tabletop gaming is getting more popularity, but it's just the amount, the infrastructure producing these models has not reached the pace in which these models are being bought. So
Yeah.
it's a
Unfortunately.
good problem to have, but it's still a problem.
Yeah. Oh well. And then there's one more thing I wanted to bring up, which I found funny. Very short story here. I noticed that GW didn't produce a coin and free model this month. Right?
It's probably a February coin. So
Well, I'm not crazy, right?
sorry, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Forgot what I said. It's probably a Dark Angel / Dark Eldar coin, or a free, like, you get a Cablite Warrior or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it got
that'd be
pushed
weird.
back. So yeah, I think that's the most likely explanation. But yeah, I was kind of annoyed too because like I'm collecting those coins. I'm like, oh, where's my coin this month? You know?
I just found it funny that I was like, there wasn't a new coin this month or free model this month, was there? I was like,
Yeah,
tried looking online for it all, and I was like, nope, can't find it.
probably Drakari or Dark Angels.
Well, interesting to see. All right then. Well, let's get down to the main book of business here, and that is the Deathguard. The leaks that we've got from people who've gotten their hands on the codex. So, pull up my notes here. I guess I could just lead the conversation here. So we got army rules. Cultists and poxwalkers. You can no longer spam them because you need a at least one core marine unit in order to take them. So I believe they have to have the keyword bubonic
Bubonic Astartes.
bubonic Astartes. Thank you.
I believe with that though, you can still take for each unit of Bubonic Astartes, you can take one Poxrock unit and one cultist. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio. Sort of, you can't take. Maybe I read that wrong, but that's how I thought it was.
And I mean,
Because it's kind of on separate lines or whatever. It's like you can only take one of these guys and you can only take one of these guys. I don't think it matters too much. It's just annoying for list building, but there's already a lot of weird list building nuances with Deathguard anyway, because you're also limited on Chaos Lords. Like Chaos Lords fill the same slot as a Demon Prince, which fills the same slot as Lord of Virulence. So to fill out a battalion, you have to take a Psyker. So there's already clunky stuff in that.
Interesting.
Because the Demon Prince classifies as the Lord of whatever, which also all the Chaos Lords are. So you're kind of stuck in this weird gray area or this annoyance area where it's like, well, I have to take this and I have to take that. Those are really actually only cons of the book in my eyes. And the only reason they're cons is it just kind of makes it's kind of annoying. I understand like it'd be really degenerate to go against like 500 poxwalkers or something silly, you know? So I understand like why they did it.
yeah.
But it's just kind of an annoying like nuance because it's like,
Yeah, and that rule you're talking about was called Infernal Jealousy, right? The one where you can only take a maximum of one Demon Prince and one Lord of the Deathguard.
Yeah. Well, the Demon Prince counts as Lord of the Deathguard or whatever, if I recall correctly. Yeah.
Yes. So you got that, and then you got the so their army rules we got here is the loss of Hateful Assault. So, but normal Marines did get +1 to their attack, so kind of balances out, but you're not generating any more attacks for getting charged or assaulting.
I mean, obviously, like
that doesn't change anything though, because it's instead of having Hateful Assault, everyone in the Deathguard Codex got +1 attack.
Right.
That would have
So
like now you get it all the time. So like on phase 3 of combat, you're still a madman attacking. You're not like, oh, I'm -1 attack now that I've been in combat for 2 turns.
Right. Now, like, would have been cool if you had a Hateful Assault on top of that? It would be kind of ridiculous and borderline OP. But people are saying, oh, Deathguard are now nerfed. Space Marines are being loved again because they lost Hateful Assault. It's like, dude, no, actually, that's better than Shock Assault because you always get it. You know?
Yeah, Blade Marines always have +1 attack now because that's what they were given. There's no change.
Yeah.
I will say this does echo back to 3rd edition when I first started 4th edition. Matt remembers this when I first started playing Chaos Marines, where their Chaos Space Marines had this view that they were just better fighters than normal Space Marines because they've been waging the long war for thousands of years. And I think having that like slight advantage there in their attacks, I think that's really cool and kind of echoes back to that. Yeah, these guys have seen some crap for longer than your regular Space Marines, and having +1 attack, I think that's pretty cool from a fluff standpoint.
Yeah, it's a nice buff that they got. And one of the last army rules I saw is the inexorable advance, which means they just count as being stationary at all times. So that means they're always going to get their malicious volley at 24 inches.
As long as they didn't fall back or advance.
Right. And then vehicles are not getting the -1 to hit or shoot, in close combat.
They also get the oh, do you want to say something about this rule, Mac? Because there's another rule I want
Go
to talk
for it.
about.
Go for it.
The fetid Virion rule, where you could, those little elites characters can be taken 3-for-1 elite slot, which is cool because kind of sucks that, if you have a battalion, you can only, like, you're already taking Death Shroud, or not Death Shroud, like Blight Lords and maybe Death Shroud, and then you're paying more elite slots for these little characters, and especially because they all got buffed. Well, except for I think the Flamer guy, he got a little bit worse.
Yeah, he took
But
it.
like the Grenade guy and the Tallyman all got huge buffs, so I think that's a good thing they did, where it's 3-for-1, so you're not starved for elite slots taking these guys. So,
But to go back to the Infernal Jealousy, why didn't they just make a couple more guys characters? Because now that would also get rid of the kind of clunky battalion taking. If you're like, I don't want to take any psychers, you're forced to take a psyker, right, to make a battalion. So if they just made the Plague Surgeon a character instead of an elite, they could have not worried about the fetid Variant as much.
right, that's a good point. Having a Deathguard lieutenant or not having one is surprising. Like, just, yeah, because if you want to take a battalion, well, say goodbye to murder psychers. Did victory points, which is kind of for you Horus Heresy book readers, kind of unfluffy, because the Death Guard were incredibly anti-psyker at one point. So kind of building a theme force that kind of harkens back to that, and just murdering, like taking that victory point that's anti-psyker. Can't do that with the battalion. So yeah, I agree. It is kind of weird that they didn't put some of these guys as regular HQs.
Yeah, Deathguard has so many characters, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they just could have done it a little bit more streamlined there. That's like the only complaints out of the whole thing.
All right, well, that's it for the army rules that I got.
You forgot about the best part of an actual advance. You're not -2 to charge now.
Oh,
When
that's
you
right.
go at the grab guys, when you're running over like terrain and stuff, you're not cutting your move speed in half. Doombolt does nothing to Plague Marines but mortal wounds. There's that's huge. That's probably my favorite part of the whole thing.
Right, but the key word being infantry models. So
yeah,
but yeah, which is great. I think I agree with Greg. There's a lot of abilities that were really powerful because they have movement speed, or like minus to charge. So yeah, having that's pretty strong, for especially because Death Guard reward closer close assault kinds of games because of their auras and whatnot.
The
so
contagion.
Yeah, it's damn good.
All right, so moving on to the next thing, we got contagions and discussing resilience, which we've already talked about this. Not much has changed that we didn't already know.
Mm-hmm.
Warlord traits. Anything stick out to you guys here besides revolting resilient? Anything
Living Plague is pretty insane. When you start adding it on to other stuff.
No aura abilities.
Yeah, so like if Drazar charges into something, he's not plus wound to wound anymore. It really makes you a lot tankier when you start losing rerolls and stuff. It's something that you don't really count for when you're looking at the resilience of something, until you're like, oh, this guy doesn't get a reroll anything anymore. But this also wouldn't affect stuff like, I believe, Red Thirst is a +1 to wound, right? Because that's not an aura effect. It's actually just an army rule. So there's going to be some debates, I'm sure, about that.
I don't think it'll last long.
And like Arc Containment, like they did, I think, a good job with them by making more of them like, ooh, I would consider taking that.
Mm-hmm.
Like Arc, you're not always going to take Arc Contaminator. Like it's good, it's still good, but it's not going to be like, I have my Arc Contaminator man 100% of the time.
Well, you will if you take Morty.
Yeah.
Hulking Physique, I thought was pretty cool. +1 wound and only wounded on a 4+.
Yep, I thought that was pretty good. I like that one. You throw it on the Flamey Flame Man to make him harder to kill.
Let's see, there's another one. Rotten Constitution, it's a +1 toughness and ignores AP 1 and 2 weapons.
Yep.
So
That's basically 5 of them. I think are really solid.
Which one do you think
The
is not so great?
the extra mortal wounds is kind of whatever. It's like cool, but everything like
What
a mortal wound aura is like
the Valley Fluent?
yeah. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, I mean, there's other ways to generate mortal wounds, and wouldn't you rather be re-rolling plague weapons or have a 5-up feel no pain? There's just other stuff that enhances Deathguard better.
True. Pretty solid. And then when Morty gets Revolting Resilience, Living Plague, and Arch Contaminator, so
Living Plague is really gross. I'm a firm believer that rerolls win you games in war games, and stuff that turns that off is really powerful, especially
Yep.
against like Space Marine stars with like Blade Guards and a captain, or lots of factions have the reroll ones thing or reroll the hit. So having that on your warlord or on Mortarian, right? That's crazy good.
Remember Lightning Claws?
Yeah, go fuck yourself, Lightning Claws.
Yeah.
I mean, good. No wonder you're free now in some units.
Yeah. Well, moving on to relics. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really look into the relics because I'm not familiar with the relics. So this is more your department, Greg. If there's anything that stood out.
I thought they made so I might be getting the names confused on a couple of them because the Bellman had the 5-up invuln one that he used to have from Psychic Awakening. That went away, right? But I believe it has the same name as the new one, which makes stuff unable to fall back on a 2-up, which is pretty good. But it's also redundant with some of the other stuff where if you have people's movement speed, it doesn't matter. The Fulgurous Helm is still good as good as ever, and it's even better now throwing it on a Plague Surgeon for a 6-up, or sorry, for a 6-inch 6-up feel no pain and stuff like that.
Yeah, I want to say that one I think is an auto include if you have a Plague Surgeon. It's just so good and worth the CP to just buy an extra relic for if you're taking a Plague Surgeon. If you have a relics kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's something. I mean, even taking it on like a Lord of Contagions are actually pretty good now too because they reroll 1. So taking it on him or taking it on other people, it's actually pretty good.
There you go.
The Revolting Stench Patch, just bring the Foul Blight Spawn back to how he was, minus an inch almost from, before the book came out.
Mm-hmm.
The Suffering Plate is still pretty good. It's probably not something you're going to take as much anymore because it's not like the default relic you end up with.
Okay.
They're really not bad. I believe there's also a relic that turns your Lord of Contagions Scythe into a Thunderhammer, which is pretty good too. That also is a plague weapon and does mortal wounds, if I recall correctly, on a 6.
That sounds ridiculous. Turns your thing into a Thunderhammer. So what? ×2 strength. The Reaper of Glorious Entropy.
Yeah, I believe so.
The Man Reaper or Plague Reaper. Strength ×2. My AP3 D3 damage or damage 3.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
And 6's wound cause mortal wound. There you go. Okay, so that's another one to look out for.
So they equaled the playing field on like all the relics, all the psychic, like everything. There's not stuff that you just go, all right, I've taken that one, and then I guess maybe I'll take something else. Now, like you can think a lot about it, which was a big important change in my eyes.
Yeah. Sounds like a. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to Frugaris Helm. That's gonna be annoying on the surgeon. And I'll just have to wait and see when I fight whoever has Deathguard. And find out how annoying this will be. So the next thing we got is deadly pathogens. So these can be put on non-named characters and any unit champions, but can't be used with grenade weapons or relics, obviously. So I mean, we kind of already seen this, I think. Did we go over this?
A little bit.
I can't.
They're
really
kind of
remember.
like I think until you start playing more rounds with them, like it's not something that pops out to you. Because like for example, the Malefic Talons are only 6 attacks, but maybe they get better if you go with the explosive outbreak to make them have exploding sixes, right? Or maybe you give it to, like, there's a lot of stuff that until you start doing it, you're not going to use it that much, I think.
Well, I mean, if this is given to anyone, I mean, you do get +1 for your weapon. +1 strength,
Yep.
sorry.
Or like unstable sickness on maybe a Death Shroud Sergeant.
Oh yeah,
So,
with the scything thing.
yeah, because he'll probably kill some stuff, or he takes the mortal wound. So it's like, I feel like it's one of those things, until you start playing with it, you're not going to be like, oh, that's a good character to put that on.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Visca's Death, I think, is pretty good. It allows you to reroll a number of attacks, and for only 10 points.
Yep.
That's an auto include on, I think, if you take the new plague guy, the Lord of Virulence, because I mean, it's just if you're paying 10 points to make sure you're rolling more for your flamer.
It's a strength 6 flamer, right? So if
Yeah.
you get a +1 strength to that, so it'd be a strength 7 flamer, because it's +1 strength to the weapon. So that'd be pretty good. Anything else? Yeah, no, we pretty much went over everything. So I'm mainly looking at Viscous Death. I think it's probably the best thing out of this. I think everything else would be more situational, in my opinion.
I think so. But then you run into the clunkiness again of, are you taking a Chaos Lord, or are you taking a Lord of Virulence, stuff like that. I like having these extra point things, because a lot of times it's like, am I going to just take an 11th or 12th Foxwalker, or will I give this guy rerolls? When you're making your list is kind of what ends up is my kind
coming
of thing
down to. Yeah, well, let's move on to the contagion disciplines. So the psychic powers. I only noticed 2, probably because no one takes them. So of course we got Miasma Pestilence, probably the best spell they've got. -1 to hit. We got a Gift of Plagues, which can increase your contagion by 6 to a maximum of 12. So you can get the was it turn 2? It's 4 inches. So you can get 10 inches on 1 unit with your contagion to get that -1 toughness on them if you want. That's a new one that I've noticed. And the Putrescent Vitality, 18 inches. You can give someone +1, a Deathguard infantry, sorry, +1 strength and +1 toughness.
Yep, that's they got rid of the Blades of Putrefaction, and they moved that to the Grenade Man as a, like, pick a unit and do that. They all seem actually fairly good, because like the Curse of the Leper, with you can get -1/2 toughness on guys pretty quickly, which means 2 ups to wound people, right? That seems pretty good. And I also like the fact that they're adding this bonus says if you cast it on a higher, you get extra stuff.
Yeah. So
more as like a down the future thing. Like, I feel like maybe Thousand Suns are going to get this, and other Chaos guys. Like, if you cast Warp Time on a 10, pick 2 units. Something like that would be cool.
It'd be interesting to see. But I also forgot to mention Gift of Contagion, which has 2 effects, like you were mentioning. So at base, which is 5, would just be a -1 strength to an enemy. And then on an 8+, it's -1 strength and -1 attack. So if you're planning on getting into close combat with a big unit, let's just say Space Marines, they lose their shock troop or whatever the hell it was called, I forgot. But that's 1 less attack coming into your Demon Prince that you decide to charge in.
Yep. -1 attack's pretty big. Coming from like playing a lot of Slanesh, when you're like, oh, I just take an attack away from you. You're like, wow, I'm really durable now.
Well, I mean, Deathguard don't need to be any more durable as they are, but it's another way to make them more durable. So overall, how are you? Spells good, in your opinion?
I have no problem with them.
Meh?
It'd be cool if they slid Warp Time in there, just because it's fun, but like, I understand what they're doing here, and it doesn't fit into Deathguard.
Well, I mean, that's just
But
Isn't
no, they're all
Wartime just a
great.
generic spell?
No, I can't. Deathguard can't take it. You'd have to ally in someone, and by allying in, you lose your contagion. So
Ah, got it. Okay. I always assumed it was just like a basic spell.
you're not really casting, I think, more than 3, 4 spells a game, or you're not really trying to get more than 4 spells off of this discipline in reality. So
Mm.
that's good.
All right
Yeah, this
then.
still exists for Mortarian, so
True. True. All right. Well, next up would be the 38 stratagems. Now, obviously, we're not going to go over all 38 stratagems because don't have that time. But any highlights out there?
Cloud of Flies still exists, but it does cost a lot.
Yeah, it does now cost 2 CP.
But it's also in response, so you don't pick it during your movement phase. You get to pick it when you get to see what's going on now, or at least their shooting phase. So they don't get to, play around with movement to make Cloud of Flies not as effective.
Isn't it? I thought you just pick it whenever. I didn't think that
No,
was a
Cloud of
thing.
Flies used to be at the end or during your movement phase. So you'd move your unit, you'd Cloud of Flies them, and then you'd continue on your way. Now it's in response.
Hmm. Okay.
Or at least not really in response, but it's at the start of your opponent's shooting phase, but it's just better that way.
Okay. Well, we got trench fighters for 1 CP. Get +1 attack with your plague knives for your plague marines, pretty much.
I think Eternal Hatred is the new Veterans of the Long War, and it's now 2 CP, which
Yes.
double the cost from 1, but still I think super good. Especially
Yep.
now with the 9th edition, it's not that hard to have a crap ton of CP, so that's
Yep.
fine with me.
I'm going to assume that's going to be across the board for all chaos too. That's
Yeah,
the new
I
veterans. It would be my assumption.
Yeah. We got Vermin Whispers for 1 CP. Get +1 to hit for Terminators.
Yep,
So
seems
make
pretty
them
good.
weapon skill plus skill 2. Even though you don't need that for Death Shrouds. Creeping Blight, 1 CP. 6s. What is it? Deathguard units fighting. 6s to wound is -4 AP. So combine that with trench fighters, which gives them +1 attack. That's a lot of AP force that could happen.
Yep.
Wipe out a unit right there.
I kind of liked Break Their Spirits. It's kind of interesting. It's when Terminators destroy a model.
Infantry, beast, or swarm.
Yep, -4 leadership. So you could technically force people to spend, CP to keep stuff on the board, or just have the last guy run away.
That's ridiculously good for 1 CP.
Yeah, like it's going to be a really good pocket one. You're not going to see it every game, but when it is used, it's going to be pretty soul crushing. The same thing with like Dark Cravings, where the fitted bloat drones get to heroically intervene 3 or 6 inches
With their flesh mowers.
with their flesh mowers. Yep.
Your plague drones, guys.
There you go. I've got belching fumes for 1 to 2 CP. These are only for blight haulers. It's -1 to hit them. But the only reason I'm highlighting this is because it says that you need to do this at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. So it's kind of lame. But I guess if you're doing preemptive stuff, right? Make them
We'll see
shoot
if
something
people
else.
have them. I'm not sure. I'm still not sold on that price increase on those guys.
No. I don't think anyone is. Another one I found interesting was the Dead Walk again. So for 1 CP, you get to roll 7 dice, and on a 3+, you get to bring back a Poxwalker.
And that's probably one of the main reasons you have to bring bubonic Astartes with Poxwalkers, because that probably would get really abusive.
Yeah.
Another good one for like release to toxins. If you have a relic or whatever, you do mortal wounds to people within 7. And then there was another one where I think characters puke up mortal wounds, if I recall correctly. So during your command phase, or I guess it depends on okay, the relic one is command phase. It's going to be one mortal wound for a 2 to 5, D3 on a 6, right? And then you can also have another character just start puking on dudes at the same way, but I believe it is 3 inches. But they're going to be able to churn out a lot of mortal wounds just over the course of the game.
Yeah. We also got a future detonation, which is 1 CP for anything with 9 or less wounds, or 2 CP with any more than 9. So, which would only be what, the Defiler and the
Plagueburst Crawler.
Plagueburst Crawlers. Everything
Fair.
else is like 9 wounds less.
1 CP to auto blow up stuff is kind of could be very abusive coming from some very vehicle heavy list where I've just won games off auto blowing everything up.
Yep, and then the last one I got here that I'm highlighting is the Blightning, which is 1 CP. Select 3 models that have blight grenades, and they get auto 6 hits.
That replaces the grenade one.
Yep, and you can't get any mortal wounds with these grenades, so goodbye to that strategy. Because they got rid of that stratagem, thank God.
I believe you still can with Biologic's Future Fire. I don't remember the wording specifically on it, but they moved his Blades of Putrefaction to him as an ability, so I'm not sure if it also counts the shooting phase for the mortal wounds. That might still be there, but I'm not 100% on that one at all.
And that was all the stratagems that I wanted to highlight, or at least that I found interesting. I don't know if there's any more that you guys want to bring up.
No, that's kind of it. Just like as a Chaos Marine player, just focusing on the +1 CP for veterans. Honestly,
Yeah, it's gonna.
the rest
be
look good.
painful.
I mean, no, they're exciting and fun. Breakthrough Spirits is hilarious. The more hilarious, the more I think about it.
Yeah, it's pretty flavorful too. It just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Because leadership plays such a big role in 9th edition. Alright, so moving on, we got Plague Companies. I didn't really do much research on the Plague Companies. So if you got any insight you want to bring in on this, Greg, we're happy to learn.
Right here. So I'm probably gonna get the names wrong on them, but there's the Drowning, right, which is from the Ferryman, if I recall correctly, which is half the movement speed. That's pretty good, right? Basically,
yeah, half the movement speed.
Half the movement speed.
That's actually pretty gross.
That's pretty disgusting. What also is disgusting is there's 2 Mortarion factions. There's the
Mortarion's Chosen Sons.
And then the Anvil. I believe the Anvil has the one that turns off rerolls.
Can't overwatch, can't reroll hits or wounds.
Yeah, which that makes Morty pretty durable, right? Because now you're not rerolling your las cannons into him when he's walking up the board, or makes anything durable because now you just lose your rerolls. There was the -1 AP, seemed pretty good if you wanted to line up a bunch of guys in the back with butcher cannons and stuff. I think it's another one of those things where they all really seem pretty solid, and it's going to be how you kind of go with it. I kind of go back and forth between the Ferryman for the Drowning and then the Can't Roll. But then in the end, if you're taking Morty in your list, you get to pick his at the start of the game, so you can end up with 2 different contagions if you'd like.
Gross. Just gross. I don't want to deal with any of that. So, let's just move on then. To the unique secondaries that were shown as well. Did you guys happen to take a look at these?
Yep.
Okay. So, first one, under the No Mercy category, we got Fleeing Vectors. 3 victory points for any unit that fails morale tests that was injured by a plague weapon.
Requires morale sucks. Moving on.
And it has to be killed with a plague weapon. That one's the only one that didn't seem too great because there was too much going on with it. Like, it's way too conditional.
It's not as bad as the Space Marine one, where you have to kill something depending on the doctrine with a specific weapon, but it's still pretty bad.
I don't know. I mean, I know I didn't say it, but I mean, there's a stratagem that turns your bolters into plague weapons, I believe.
But still, then they have to have 1 model run for morale, which is something that could happen, but it's still too conditional because you're letting the opponent go like, well, I'll just auto pass morale because I know that's going to net you 3 points and I'm going to win this game by 3 points.
True. Okay. Well, I mean, I think it would be pretty easy because aren't all their close combat weapons basically plague weapons?
Yeah,
So I don't think it'd be that impossible. I mean, yeah, you probably don't want to spend the CP to shoot them with a plague weapon, but
but you could just stand in 3/4 of the table or 4/4 of the table, and that you control that yourself.
right,
There's no, I mean, obviously the player can shoot you out of a table corner and stuff like that, but there's no conditionals within that way to obtain victory points.
okay. So you're moving on to the battlefield supremacy, the spoiler ground, which I don't know. Is this end of the game or is this end of the battle round? Because my source
End of the game.
contradicts itself.
End of the game.
End of the game. Okay. So yes, you get 4 victory points if you are in yours and enemy deployment zone. You get 4 if you're in 3 table quarters, or 6 for being in all 4 table quarters. And then you get 4 for holding half the objective markers.
With Buonic Astartes, so you can't have Poxwalkers on them. That actually has to be like Terminators and Plague Marines.
Okay. I didn't have
So
that
this is
info.
another one where like you might be able to get 8 points off of it, but then you kind of get into this weird gray area. And if it's at the end of the game, right? You have to have tabled your opponent or just no one killed anything.
And then the last objective to it is you have to have every objective marker within contagion range for another 4 victory points.
That doesn't seem that bad because you have a 9-inch contagion range, so like you can hit 2 objective markers pretty easily.
Yeah, so let's see. You get 4, 10, 14, 18. You can get up to 18 victory points with this. I mean, obviously capped at 15, but that's how much you can score with this one objective if you can manage to do it at the end of the game. Which, seeing how it's Deathguard and how tough they are and how tough you can make them, I don't think it's gonna be that big of a problem.
No, I would agree. I think this one's much better than the first one. It's still one of those ones where I'm not going to take it for the first few games while I see where I'm at with my army and then go, okay, cool. Actually, I can do this easily, pretty consistently.
Yeah. Then we got the last one, the shadow operations called Spread of Sickness. Deathguard infantry units do their own action 3 inches from an objective marker. So they have to roll a 4+ to take it, or they can take D3 mortal wounds for an auto succeed. And you get 3 victory points. 3 victory points if you do this.
You're taking D3 probably every time. And I think that one's pretty solid because Poxwalkers can't do actions.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Poxwalkers can't do actions.
They can only do this one, and you're probably bringing Poxwalkers over cultists in most cases. And your characters can also do this and stuff too. And if your characters are near Death Shroud, they're not getting shot anyway. So taking D3 mortal wounds on a psycho is kind of whatever.
Mm. Yeah, well, so I would definitely say that 2 out of 3 pretty good. Third one, no mercy. I mean, fleeting vectors. I think you could do it, but I understand that morale test just kind of sucks.
Yeah, if it was just killed with plague weapon, that's super doable, right? But just the failing morale thing, I think that's what pushes that to like sucky territory.
Yeah, it's not gonna go over well. Okay, well that's that. So some character sheets. So start off with the Lord Variance himself. We got a 120 point model here. Movement 5, weapon skill, bliss skill 2. And then everything else is pretty much normal Space Marine Terminator Lord. Still gets to keep his 4++, 4 up invul. Gives a reroll to core units. So
and his aura was a -1 AP, right?
Say that again. What?
I think he had the -1 AP aura also, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it gives him an extra AP. So on plague weapons.
Yeah, he seems alright.
Ranged plague weapons. Extra AP. Yeah, Yeah, that's pretty much it. It doesn't have much more. I mean, he's a lord of the Deathguard, so you gotta deal with that clunkiness. But I don't know. You guys thinking about getting him for 120 points right there? Terminator Lord with the Plague Spear, twin Plague
That's what
Spear.
I'm doing.
Depends on what you play. Yeah.
Because I think Lord of Contagions are also good. So it depends on kind of if you're going more middle board shooting and stuff, or if you're trying to move up more aggressively.
Yeah.
Would be the choice there, because then you're taking the Lord of Contagion over the Lord of Virulence.
All right. The terrain piece, the Miasmic Malignifier. Pretty interesting terrain piece we got here. It's doesn't matter about the blitz skill. Toughness 8, 12 wounds, 3+ save. It's armed with a 6-inch heavy flamer, and for AP1, or not heavy flamer, regular flamer, but 2d6. Strength 4, AP1, damage 1, auto hits, obviously. Has disgusting resilience. Is at max contagion, so it's always at 9 inches. It explodes on a 4+. It is terrain. You gain light cover from it, and if you already have a unit that gains light cover, you get a -1 to hit. And it has seeded growth, which means you can pretty much deep strike this building 12 inches away from the enemy deployment zone. So, what do you think?
It's definitely interesting. I could actually see him getting play, right? Because if it has 9-inch contagions and it's 12 inches away, could you then just put it 12 inches away from the enemy line and then just have it minus their movement, so they have to shoot it to leave the deployment zone?
Well, I mean, you gotta be 12 inches away from the deployment zone, so.
Yeah, so you're 12 inches away from it, but they still, like, you just put it in front of the objectives that they would go for, and now they can't go for them because they're being tar pitted by a random terrain piece.
Yeah. I
If
don't
I'm
see why you couldn't do that.
that just seems really interesting.
It seems decent enough to take, unlike 99% of the other terrain pieces.
You know, the aura helps, and pretty defensive with a flamer. You can knock out those chaff units pretty fast.
Yeah, they keep scouts from taking objectives from you, or just little guardsmen or cultist units. They can't really do anything about it.
And being toughness 8 with disgusting resilience, it's gonna be hard to kill. 12 wounds as well.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving on to the HQ choices. Now that we don't need the new units, Demon Prince dropped down in points, went down to 140. The wings are 35 points, but the wings now just move 10 inches instead of 12.
You think that is just a Deathguard thing or an all Flying Demon Prince thing?
I'm gonna hope that it's a Deathguard thing, because they're heavy bunch over there, but I would really hate to see this transfer over to normal Chaos and Thousand Suns, and even Demons, I guess. I mean, would it be really worth the extra 35 points then?
For choosing extra movement, probably not.
Yeah.
The bigger thing, though, is the weapon changes they made. Like, now you look at the Demon Prince and you're not always taking 2 claws. You're like, well, a sword's actually pretty good, or an axe is pretty good.
Yeah, the claws are -1 AP now, but they give you an extra, or 2 extra attacks if you have 2, which I think they already did, right?
There's 3.
There's 3. Oh, so yeah, the claws took a hit. The sword is now strength 8, and the axe is now strength 9. That's pretty powerful right there.
If I recall correctly, sword's -3, 3 damage flat, too.
Is it a plague weapon as well?
No, and I'm not sure they have a relic to replace it anymore. They used to, which was from, but I'm not sure if they do now.
All right, we got Typhus going at 165 points. His Man Reaper is now -1 to hit, so that's kind of sucky. Because I believe it wasn't -1 to hit before, right?
I actually didn't use Typhus that much to know on that one for sure.
Well, if you use Death Shroud, because I know all Man Reapers became -1 to hit with, so if that's true, then he's now hitting on 3s, I believe. So unlucky with that. The Destroyer Hive is now 2+ chance for D3 mortal wounds on an enemy unit in the command phase. Which I think wasn't that like a shooting attack before?
Yeah, it just used to be a gun he used to shoot, so.
Let's see. He now buffs the Poxwalkers +1 strength only. And his contagions is +3. So he's starting turn 1 off with 4-inch contagion. So meh. I mean, I know a lot of Poxwalkers will be run.
I don't even think it matters on the Poxwalker thing. It gives you a beefy Terminator Sorcerer to deep strike stuff with.
True.
That was the big thing I saw. Like I've always wanted to add Typhus, but he's always been fairly expensive. But now he didn't get reduced in this one, but he was reduced in 9th at one point, where it's like, ooh, this is pretty good. Mm-hmm. But he's also counts as a Lord of Chaos or whatever, so you can take Typhus and no other lords in that battalion or demon princes.
Right, and then other HQ choices. I mean, you got your Chaos Lord, Lord of Contagion, which he's got quite a laundry list. Playcaster and Deathguard Sorcerers. I mean, I didn't really see anything here.
Just the stuff that came from the Space Marine book is now actually Deathguard, and it's not T4, no feel, no pain, or no disgusting or resilient.
Yeah. Plague Marines, onto the troops. 2 wounds, 2 attacks base now. Plagueized -1 AP. The flail got nerfed though. How do you feel about that?
I don't think the flail is that big deal because now it's just 2 attacks. The spilling over damage is now a stratagem. The big thing with the Plague Marines now is I believe now you can only take 1 flail per unit. Mm-hmm. But then you can also, so you can have a unit with like your sergeant with the power fist, you have some guy with the bubonic cleaver and mace, you have someone with the flail, you have someone else with the great bubonic cleaver and something else. You just take a unit with 5 different weapons and they all are like multi-wound, and you just use the spillover stratagem on them that way. Because like the great cleaver is D6 damage or whatever.
I can't believe I kind of forgot to mention that stratagem.
So I don't think it makes that big of a difference. It's actually you have to spend a command point on it, but also now that you can't stack as many plague flails in the unit, it's not like it's going to be as crazy, and there's no Death to the False Emperor, so you're not going to be spiking like 12 attacks on someone. So
that's what made it fun.
That's what made it fun. But I also think it will be really funny when you're spending 15 minutes rolling your attacks on 5 different weapon profiles on a 5-man squad.
True.
But that's why they made Disgusting and Resilient -1 damage, right? Or so you don't have to. So now you just roll all your weapons individually.
Yeah, it's a shame though. But I'm not gonna miss that. So good luck spending. Well, how much CP is it? 2, 1 CP? I can't remember.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's 2. It's pretty powerful. But so moving on to the Poxwalkers, they went down 2 points. So the toughness, or 5 points, sorry. Toughness 4. They get to keep their 6 up, feel no pain. They
used to be a 5 up. It went to a 6 up.
Oh, well, they get to keep a feel no pain. They got the rule that you wanted, which was auto pass morale. They got to keep it. The only downside is, they can't do actions and they don't have Obsect. Oh, wait, no, they do have Obsect.
It's the cultists don't have Obsect.
It's the cultists who don't have Obsect, which cultists are looking more and more like terrible choices to bring in your army.
I still being able to do actions with cultists and with the Deathguard rules where you can only take 1-to-1 ratio or whatever, and if you can double up the Poxwalker cultist to one Marine unit, I still see them being useful because then they can still raise banners and stuff.
True, but
And for 50 points, like I spend 45 points to 90 points to bring Furies in a Chaos list, in a Chaos Demon list, to have something to just raise banners. Even though I don't do it every game, it's still like there's no reason not to have it there, to have that option in matchups where like raising the banners is really important. But definitely I would take 30 Poxwalkers before I took Cultist in most cases. But there's still a point to have them. I know everyone hates on the Cultists and stuff like that, but they're still kind of useful.
they have their uses. Whether you see it or not. They'll be there doing something. But I don't see cultists really being used much. Especially for losing Obsect, which, I mean, not really a big deal because you usually get shot off the board.
Yeah, I mean, they could just stand
they
behind
ever
the
get
building.
seen.
Yeah, they just, I mean, you might see 1 or 2 units in an arm, I think.
Oh, we'll have to wait and see. So, elites. This is the Foetid Varian units. So we got the Noxus Blightbringer. 6 aura for -1 combat patrician and -1 to psychic powers, and +1 movement for core and Varian units.
He was the one who used to let you roll 2 dice when you're at advance, and he also had the ability to bring the 5 up or 5 plus invuln, 6-inch aura.
Mm-hmm.
So he lost that stuff, which kind of stinks. But now he has a 2-up can't fall back relic, which kind of, he's in a weird area for me. Like I used to always try to fit him in a list because being able to advance with 2d6 take the highest was pretty huge, especially on a slow moving army. Plus giving Chaos Spawn a 5-up invuln was really nice. Or even just a big unit of Plague Marines, a 5-up feel no pain when you don't want to Cloud of Flies them. Or sorry, a 5-up invuln.
Mm-hmm.
So he fills a completely different role now, and I'm not really seeing it as much other than like not falling back. And he's also a 60-point character, so he could just go stand in an objective and take mortal wounds to spread the plague or whatever with that
That one mission.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, you got to do that on different objectives. You can't just do it on the same one. But I see what you mean.
He still can just move around. Like it's just nice to have people who, once he kind of moves people around or he stops someone from falling back, he could just walk around and go do his own thing.
See it. The nerfed guy that everyone sees is the Foul Blight Spawn. So he got a buff to his sprayer being 12 inches, but he got it down to 1d6 instead of the normal 2d6, right?
That's the strength. It used to be strength 2d6. It was
Okay.
still always d6 shots.
Okay.
And it was AP 3 damage. Now it's damage 2. In the end, he's probably going to perform better. He's not going to spike as much, to be honest. The bigger thing is the charge being reduced to 3 inches is the bigger thing for me, because it's like his flamethrower was cool and it was fun to throw him at a dude and just pick up a tank or be like, oh, well, I couldn't actually wound witches because I have a 2-strength flamer now that rolled 1 hit.
Yeah, the charge breaking abilities, what you're talking about.
But now he gets you can give him, he's still pretty flexible though, because there's not the ferrymen, the Mortarian's chosen sons have the powerful flamers, and there's a flamer relic that I believe gives it, that brings him back up to how he was. It's not 2d6 strength, but it's a very powerful flamer. I don't remember the stat line on it, and I don't want to make guesses on it. But I know I looked at it and I was like, damn, that looks really good.
And the relics, you said?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember seeing it though.
Okay, yeah, we'll look it up later. Okay, so he's saying he still has a place.
Of course, making people fight last and stuff, and you just give him a relic to make it 6 inches and pick something to fight last or whatever. It's still huge. There's no reason not to take him, especially at 75 points. Yep. I'm taking one of them, probably not taking 2 or 3. Maybe 2.
Maybe 2. Well, you got the Biologist Purifier. So this is the grenade guy. So -1 AP with his blight grenades and 2 damage within 6 inches of this guy.
Yep. So
And plague weapons on 6s in the fight phase are mortal wound.
yep, the one core unit is you pick something within 6, if I recall correctly. So this is the thing that was replacing Blades of Putrefaction. So it's only the fight phase. So me talking about the grenade thing still being alive, the mortal wounds is it.
Yeah, unfortunate.
Which is fine. I mean, still having 3 guys throw 6 grenades is pretty huge. I know the Bully Grin used to be able to throw a lot of grenades, and that was still pretty hard to deal with.
I bet. Tallyman went up 10 points. Now he's 70. So one unit +1 to hit in the command phase, and roll 2d6. On a 7+, you gain a CP.
He's pretty good now.
Get the anything that helps you get more CP is always good.
+1 to hit on stuff too is really nice. Then you can have 2 big units of Terminators with +1 to hit, or Plague Marines, or whatever you want.
Yeah, put that on Death Shrouds. Then they become +1 or become weapon skill 1 or whatever, and then that -1 on the Reaper blade won't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got the Chaos Apothecary, the Plague Surgeon.
He's also pretty solid.
Basically, just an apothecary without the ability to bring people back. Unfortunately, grants the 6-up feel no pain and can heal D3 wounds.
And you can give him the full Ger's home to make it 6 inches, which is pretty big.
6-inch feel no pain, and being able to heal someone within 6 inches. Yes. But that's all that was. That's the voted Varian units that we talked about earlier. Get to the other elites. So we got the Blight Ward Terminators. Went down 3 points. Still get to keep their 4-up invul. Strength 5 plague weapons. And I don't know what this Aura of Rust is. Do you know what this is?
That was on 6s to wound, you got extra AP. Or it might have been 6s. One of the 6s to hit or wound, you got extra AP. It didn't come up often because it was usually just Plague Fellows picking everything up.
Okay. Well, following the trend here, so they got +1 wound and +1 attack. So 3 base and 4 for the leader, plus whatever weapons you're gonna give them to add to their attacks. So this could be a very scary unit, which ever since the Terminator change, giving them that +1 to wound and Storm Shield and whatever else to keep them powerful, Terminators have been very scary.
There's just durable bricks now that really eat up a lot of space and are hard to deal with.
Yeah, and then we got the Death Shroud Terminators. These are the ones with the Reapers, the Man Reapers. So they got the 2 weapon profiles. They're 4 attack space. So 5 attack on the captain, whoever that is. The gauntlets are now range 12. And do you know what Chimes of Contagion are?
That's +3 to your contagion range.
Alright, so they can, if you want to spend an extra 15 points, you can get that ability if you want.
It seems a little bit steep, to be honest, 15 points for it.
Yeah.
When everything already kind of has contagion, you can do some other stuff with it. It's a little bit steep. Death Shroud Terminators are looking really interesting. The big one that is the Bodyguard. So how it currently works. Well, no, it's different now because they don't bodyguard Mortarion, but they can bodyguard Deathguard characters.
Right, but I mean,
so you
a lot of people just took them for Mortarion.
No, I mean, I think they're better now.
True.
Mortarion can stand on his own. With now, you can have your flame guy standing in front of him, or any characters you want. You could have 3 psychers standing in front of them, and they can't get shot because they're within 3 inches of the Death Shroud Terminators. Because the closest doesn't matter with that. It's kind of like the Salamander's role.
Nice lookout, sirs, all around for your little characters.
Yep, and that gets tricky because now you can't charge them because you'll fight last because the flame guy is standing in front. You can't charge the flame guy because the Death Shroud are right there. You can have them heroically intervene if you want with Mortarian's Anvil or Chosen Sons, one of the two.
Yeah, these guys are weapon skill too, but because of the scythe, they are -1, so they're hitting on 3s.
And they have the cleave attacks.
Yes, they have the different weapon profiles.
They're pretty big.
Hellbrutes. Yeah, they're good. Very solid. Both Terminator choices are both solid choices. Hellbrutes. Now, no one really takes Hellbrutes. I don't know if they're gonna be taken anymore. I mean, they got the core rule, so that was good. They got the -1 damage because of the resilience, and when wounded, they can reroll wounds of 1.
They used to have to replaces the crazed whatever. So when they take a wound, you roll a dice, and on a 6, they can like or fire frenzy or whatever that replaces it. So at least they're more efficient once they take a wound, and you don't have to roll like a bunch of dice and figure stuff out.
True. And then the possessed, which we talked about before. So they went up 4 points, but they got the toughness 5. They got the 5. They get to keep their 5 plus invul save. They're now a flat 4 attacks. Strength 5 -2. Damage 1. They count as core. And if they have tentacles, they count as plague weapons. So.
Yep. They don't go in rhinos though. They're in a very interesting place in my thought process. Like they seem really good, and I really want to take them, but they're also 4 points more than Plague Marines, or sorry, 3 points more than Plague Marines, which can also shoot. So they I'm trying to figure out how to get possessed in my list and be happy with it, because I feel like they are good, and they could be devastating, but they're just like it's kind of clunky at times.
Well, you deep strike Terminators in the back, or you put up the miasma. What was that building called?
Miasma Pestilence and the Possessed. Yeah, you can take them in units.
No. The miasmic malignifier. You put that up in the front, and then you just cloudiflies them the entire way up, and then there you go.
Yeah.
And then you deep strike Terminators in the back, turn 2, and then they'll never be shot at.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could sneak up the board pretty easily if there's like a Mortarion on the board and some Death Shroud walking at you too. It's like, well, those Possessed look scary, but I really can't deal with them because Mortarion and there's a bunch of Death Shroud bearing on me. So I think they could be really good. But even in that point, it's like, maybe I'd rather just save 3 points a model and have Plague Marines because at least they can shoot as they walk up the board.
It'll be up to preference and seeing what strategies we want to be pulling off here.
Exactly. It depends where you want to spend your command points, I guess.
Yeah. Fast attack. We got Spawn. 23 points still. Only 2d3 attacks. They lost the Hateful Assault, so they don't get that. Don't get that extra attack. But
it used to be D6 attacks. Oh, it would be D6 plus 1 or whatever because of Hateful Assault.
Right.
So it's not that big of a loss. I think they're still really good. I used to bring 10 of them in most cases because you'd give them Disgusting Resilient, which was a 5 fuel no pain.
Mm-hmm.
Now they get +1 toughness and Disgusting Resilient, so they go up to T6 for 1 CP, and if you take a unit of bigger than 3, it's 2 CP. Yeah. I still see myself trying to fit in 3 and maybe 6 into some list.
Sounds horrible.
They fill a different role though. Now that you're not running 5 of them, I feel like, because now you're using, like, they changed a lot. It's really interesting how they moved units around. When if I bring Death Shroud, I'll probably be using those to protect the characters, and the Chaos Spawn will just go do their own thing because the Chaos Spawn used to be a great protector of characters.
Mm.
Now there's no 5-up invuln for them and stuff, so now they kind of can just go do their own thing.
Muck around the board trying to find something to do.
Yeah, and I'm not sad if they sit on the back home objective and do nothing for 5 turns either. At 23 points a model, it's no biggie.
Well, here's the big nerf here. We got the Blight Haulers going, of course, up to 40 points more, so 140 now. What they got was a hit on 3s. They're always a -1 to hit, and they're 9 wounds. That's pretty much it. They lost their grant people cover ability, and the Trilobe rule is gone. I don't know.
really
This is
much
gonna
on
be very
those.
steep.
I never really used them. I don't own any of the models. I always considered getting them, but I was like, it's not really what I like to play with. So
I think I only fought Blight Haulers once, and I was in the LVO. Some guy ran, what's the max squad you could run? 9.
yeah, I think 9 with the bell to bring them back when they die.
Yeah,
That was pretty funny.
the meme list right there. That was whatever. It didn't do too well. Though, yeah, but that extra 40 points, it's kind of steep. Maybe one squad of 3 you'd probably take if you want the mobility.
I mean, the multi-multis are still pretty good for like solid, decent anti-tank, right? And they're hitting on 3s and stuff, so they're not terrible.
They're not
They
terrible.
don't. They've never really fit my playstyle, so it's hard for me to make any valuable input on them because it's like they're cool. I just don't really see a draw to them.
I don't know. I just feel like you probably use that 120 points for something better. I say 120 points because I'm saying they went up 40 points. For something, probably something better. Unless you want to use them for board control to get quick objectives and sneak them around to just snipe some vehicles or heavy units. But other than that, I don't see anyone taking more than 3,
Yeah, I'd
if
agree.
at all.
You can buy a defiler for the same, I think about the same amount of points, or you just get bloat drones. Like it's just there's other options that you look at and you're like, I think I like that one a little bit better.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the boat drones. They're 130 points, 5 points for the mower, and 10 points for their launchers. They drop down to 9 wounds, so they no longer degrade. Plague spitters will always be strength 6. Flesh mowers, 12 attacks, strength 7, -2 damage.
Hitting on 3s now.
Hitting on 3s. This is nasty.
It is. I'm taking 2 of them, I think, in most cases, because that 6-inch heroic intervention is also really nice.
I hate these models. Not as much as Nurglings, but I hate these models. They're always such a pain to shoot down.
With the 9 wounds, it's not as bad, I guess, but like them not degrading, and I think also that it hits a break point with the big game hunter or whatever secondary, so they don't give up as many points. But I'm not 100% sure on the math on that one because I thought it's +10 and -10 right now in the break points.
Yeah, so if they're 9 wounds, it's 1 point. 10 wounds, 2 points. 20 wounds, 3 points. So, killing these guys for big game hunter would only grant you 1 point. Just like majority, unless you're taking a heavy vehicle right now or a big monster, you're not gonna be scoring many points off that big game hunter. So, moving on, we got the Plague Burst Crawlers. Also saw the buff of getting +1 to hit. Their mortar is now a flat 2 damage. And the infantry cannons are D3 +3 damage. Overall, solid buff, I guess.
The entropy cannons are basically just the stratagem baked into them now.
Do you think infantry cannons are going to be seen a lot more?
There's still only 2 shots. You probably will, but I still think the flamers are better because it's time will tell. I think actually, now that I think about it a little bit more.
Early on, it's easy to call it, but for the future, it's a lot harder because, I mean, we only got like, what, 3 books out there right now?
Yeah, because like sometimes you want just like I don't think I'm going to take 3 as much as I used to. I think I'm thinking like 2 plague bursts, 2 bloat drones, because like I need something in the back to shoot at things,
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the entropy cannons really matter that much. But then again, if it's just going to sit in the backfield and shoot, I may as well put entropy cannons on it, right?
Right.
Because I'm not going to be I'm not going to be running them up the board to screen guys with Cloud of Flies as often now. but the flamers still are just really solid at just having flamers. Plus, the mortar now can go up to 3 damage with a stratagem that also splashes mortal wounds. So,
Yep.
you're probably not pushing this forward as fast as you used to. But I don't know. It's really nice just to push such a durable tank up there.
Yeah, I'd be happy if it didn't have its flamers. I'll take the las cannons over the flamers. In my opinion.
Yeah, 2 shots is always something that's like,
Let's see, land raiders, predators, and I'll just throw rhinos in there. All gain contagions. So that's pretty much it for that. Defiler, now weapon skill with skill 3, 165 points base. It's Defiler cannon, 72 inches, heavy D6, strength 8, AP2, damage 3, blast. But this does not get disgusting resilience, and is not a core.
which sort of hurts them. They're still fairly cheap and they can go do their own thing.
Yeah.
But losing the feel no pain makes them a little bit less something you want to always take.
Yeah, so
I still
-1
think
damage would be
having some
nice.
defilers plus Mortys on the board and stuff, it's like, yeah, they're still going to do a lot of work. But I guess I also never really hopped on the defiler train either. So that might be why I'm more indifferent about them.
I like the models, but they've never performed well, and I really have not seen a Defiler since 4th or early 5th edition. Oh. It's been collecting dust in someone's basement.
Hitting on 3s, though, is pretty big.
Oh, yeah. And all the Demon Angels getting +1 their blood skill is big. Definitely makes them a lot more reliable to take.
Yeah, you don't feel bad anymore.
All right, and then the last one, which we've already kind of talked about, so if there's anything you want to add to it, we got Mortarion.
He's an animal. He's really good, and I think you'll see a lot of him. I don't think he's an auto take, though, with as strong as he actually is, because he is 500 points, and I think maybe, what is that? It's about 250, right? So I think you can take 10 Death Shrouds, and you might be happier than taking Mortarion in some type of list or taking other stuff. So I don't think he's an auto take by any means. He's really good. And the fact that he can jump up the board and just disable rerolls is like invaluable.
I would think he'd be an auto take. Just given what he can do and the damage he can output.
Yeah, but he's also 500 points.
500 points, and then you also gotta remember that some good shots can take him down pretty fast.
Yeah, he's not invulnerable. You can mitigate a lot of the damage he takes on turn 1 versus like really heavy shooting list by just putting him in deep strike and stuff. He's insane, but I don't think he's busted. But I mean, I haven't played with him. I haven't watched him walk up to the table and take 0 damage or kill everyone constantly. But I think he's really good. I think he's like, I was talking about last week. It's like, why don't you ever play with Mortarion, Greg? It's like, he doesn't really last more than a turn, and I'd really like him to do more things. It'd be cool if he had like 3 warlord traits or something. It's like, oh, he gets 4, okay, and he's T8. I mean, he's really durable. I remember reading somewhere the math on it, like it takes 34 Eradicator shots or something like that to down him.
So what you're saying is I gotta get more Eradicators.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can do that. Well, anyways.
He kind of has the Silent King feel, I think is the best, because like the Silent King is a threat, right?
Oh, yeah.
But you're not dealing with him turn 1 or 2. You can't just kill the Silent King turn 1 or 2, right?
You could.
I mean, you can, but it's not free every game. You don't just go, the Silent King dies right now.
True.
Because there's other stuff you have to deal with, right? And by the time the Silent King dies, you already have 60 Necron warriors that have scored you, 80 points or 60 points, and you can't clear them off the table to catch back up. So he's a really good force amplifier, and Morty's also that he just amplifies your forces in defensive and offensive ways in a great way.
Yeah, I see it.
Because you
Well,
also get to pick the contagion at the start of the first battle round that he takes.
that is also true.
So if you're going versus, let's say, someone with no rerolls, you can take whatever you want. Right? You don't need to take the ferryman one or whatever. You can take let's say they have a bunch of, it's just like a character shooty list. You can take the mortal wound one and just go charge him into something and just have him do a ton of mortal wounds over the course of the turn or game.
Yeah, well, Marty will be a beast, and I'm sure I'll be seeing him a lot.
I'm 100% going to bring him in the first few lists I bring because I want to play with Morty, but I could see me reasonably being like, that was cool. I'm going to pull him out for a little bit and see what else I can do with 500 points because 500 points is a lot.
It is a quarter of your army. So, unless you got anything else you want to add, I just want to get your final thoughts on the book since you play this army.
I'm pretty happy with it. I think they did a really good job flattening everything out to where there's not instant auto takes. You're not like, that's the best no matter what. I'm just taking that. The other thing I think this army does like really interesting is everyone's running damage 2, right? Everyone wants damage 2 weapons because Space Marines die to damage 2, right?
Yep.
Now all those damage 2 weapons don't do anything against Deathguard, so it really makes this really weird like enigma where it's like, well, I need damage 2. If I go to an event, you need to have a list that can deal with Space Marines, right? But that list that deals with Space Marines doesn't deal with Deathguard that well. So now you're in this like gray enigma, and I think it's going to be fun to see what people come up with to play around Space Marines and Deathguard.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty crazy.
It's funny that they kind of came like back to back, where it's like, oh yeah, everyone wants +2 weapons. Heavy bolters are really cool, and it's like, no, they're not. They're just bolters.
Well, they were pretty cool until the Death Guard's like, yeah, minus
Because like
damage.
if you're playing Dark Eldar, right, and the disintegrators are reasonably priced, I'm not sure what the prices changed to. You'd probably be taking 3 of them, right, in most cases.
Yes.
To deal with Space Marines. What do you feel about taking them now, though, if you're going to run into Deathguard?
It's a interesting thing because I like volley of dice, so I think they would be worth it. But against Deathguard, I mean, I'm be wounding on 4s and doing 1 damage with them because they're only strength 5, -3, I believe, 2 damage. But Deathguard -1 damage, so it'd only be doing 1 damage. So at most, I'd be killing, if I was lucky, 9. I'd kill about 4, maybe, if I was lucky.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's the same thing with like overcharging plasma, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it bumps you from strength 7 to strength 8, right? So do you overcharge your plasma guns to shoot Morty? So you're wounding him on 4s rather than 5s? But then he's not taking the 2 damage and you're risking your guys blowing up.
Yeah, it's gonna always be that risk versus reward kind of deal thing.
So they put this weird, like, that's I think the cooler thing about this book coming out is they put this kind of weird, everyone's kind of starting to think one way, how do I deal with this? And now it's like, well, now you have to deal with this. And it's like, wait, that's the complete opposite.
Yeah. We just have to wait and see what everyone else is going to be getting.
Yep.
So overall, happy gamer with this.
Yeah, I mean, now like every model in the book, I feel has value to it.
That's
I think I'd like to. I can't name something that I wouldn't really. I guess I'm not a fan of the Malefic Blight Haulers, but I've never been, so I'm not going to go buy those. But it doesn't really matter. And like Defilers, I'd consider it still though. They still seem like fun. They look like cool models, but I just like don't own any, and I don't really feel like actively going to get Defilers. But I still think they're good.
Well, that's always good to have a book where everything is pretty viable and not trash. Like some current armies have at the moment.
Exactly. And like all the or most of like I'd say 80% of the relics, maybe even more, are viable. Same with the warlord traits. It's like you're not always taking Arc Contaminator now. You're like, well, this could be really good because having toughness 5 and transhuman all the time might be really nice. Or having that extra wound, or like a demon prince with his power armor now ignores ones and twos. Like there's a lot more diversity.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I'm not starting my list going, I need 3 Plague Burst crawlers. Am I going with Blight Lords or am I going with Plague Marines? What do I want to do here? All right, I'm going with Blight Lords, so now I need my 10 Blight Lords. Now you're looking at different things.
Yeah, well, I can only hope my Dark Eldar get that same treatment.
Yep, I kind of hope it goes that way for everyone because it's a nice feeling to have options, not feel bads. Other than like you can only have a Chaos Lord and a Wizard in your battalion, which is like, so I think you might see a lot of double patrols with Deathguard lists.
Patrols seem to be the way to go now that you don't have to mid-max your command points.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you still kind of have to watch out, but not as bad as 8th edition was.
Yeah. But that also means you can't take the fortification if you're going double patrols because you probably also want Mortarion, right? So now you run into the detachment issues.
I'm sure we'll figure it out when we get there because
Yep.
it'll be out this Saturday. So.
Yep. I'm waiting for my book.
All right then. Well, I
think
think
I also have 9 Death Shroud coming too because I never actually bought any of those. Now I actually finally bought some.
That's because you're a horrible human being for doing that. Well, I think we're gonna call it there. It was fun. Thank you for coming back, Greg. Giving us the insight.
Not a problem.
Unfortunately, John had to step out, so he won't be saying goodbye. But we'll see everyone next time. So goodbye.
Bye-bye.